Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Bates. On behalf of the Must Save sponsoring utilities and energy service providers, thank you for joining us today. Um, Today, we'll be talking about a few things, but we're going to be talking about heat pumps primarily. We'll be focusing on several important topics as you begin or continue your electrification journey. Those are going to be engaging with contractors, getting quality proposals that meet your goals and fit your motivations. And beyond that, when you're ready to make a decision, that you are well equipped to make the best decision possible. And that is supported by the quote comparison report demonstration project that is bringing you this presentation and giving you access to a tool that will make your heat pump journey uh, that much easier. So let's dive into it. So again, thank you for joining us today on behalf of the Mass Save sponsoring utilities and energy service providers. We are excited to be offering this new project. Any questions about the program or any services that are offered through Mass Save, we recommend you checking out masssave.com because there are a lot of great resources and incentives to help you reduce your energy consumption, improve your comfort, and save a little bit of money along the way too. So as I outlined, we're going to be talking about three things primarily. Working with contractors, uh, we'll be comparing quotes, making an informed decision, and maximizing incentives from Save. So we're not going to get too much into the technical side of heat pumps, right? But we will answer kind of the basic question, what are the benefits of installing heat pumps in your home? Uh, so the first one, right? Providing high efficiency heating and cooling in one system. This is one of the largest misunderstandings that heat pump provides both heating and cooling. So it's your HVAC solution throughout the entirety of the year, right? Heat pumps have gained a lot of recognition in the last few years. They are doing so because they are so highly efficient. Um, and I think it's always helpful to kind of put this efficiency in the context of what we're familiar with, right? So most modern boilers are over 90% efficient. That means that for every 1 unit of power consumed, they're going to produce just under 1 unit of heating power. It's not one for one, right? They're losing energy in some form. Most furnaces fall in the range of about 85 to 95% efficient. So again, we're losing energy. It's not a strictly one for one. Uh, Heat pumps are different. Two of the most popular models from different manufacturers are actually 410 and 610% efficient at 47 degrees Fahrenheit. And 47 degrees Fahrenheit is a rated temperature commonly used in some form to evaluate and size and select heat pumps. But again, 410 and 610% efficiency, right? That's a huge difference. Now, heat pumps don't always maintain such high efficiency. They lose efficiency as the outside temperature decreases, but they are going to be above one. They're just more efficient in nature. The second one, improving indoor air quality, right? This is another benefit that heat pumps aren't burning traditional fossil fuels in your home, right? So there's going to be no byproduct. And heat pumps actually can work to capture airborne contaminants, including dust, including smoke, um, right? So they are both a heating and cooling, but they can also be an air filtration system within your home. The third point here, cost, right? They can be less expensive than traditional fossil fuel systems, especially oil and propane, right, over the longer term. And they'll be about on par with natural gas, slightly above, maybe slightly below. But to note, right, and just to remind ourselves, right, homeowners who install heat pumps not only get that high efficiency heating, but we also get that cooling. And you can expect to save about 30 to 50% on cooling costs as compared to a standard central air conditioning system, right? So those folks who have a large unit outside and have duct work throughout the house, you can expect those savings with the switch to a heat pump. Finally, when we're pairing heat pumps with a clean power supply, the environmental benefits are even greater. right? The good thing about being in New England, particularly Massachusetts, is we already have a pretty green grid, and we're moving in an even greener direction here, which is going to help Massachusetts not only meet its climate goals, but it also helps us maximize our own environmental kind of impact, right? Because it's helping us maximize the environmental benefits of heat pumps here. So now let's focus on the process itself, the buying process itself. Um, and it's important, right, that as we go through this, we're talking about getting multiple quotes. Whenever we are consulting with residents, there is the recommendation that customers are getting at least three, right? Hopefully representing both different manufacturers, different brands, to ensure you are getting a look into what is the best possible system and configuration for your home. Once you have secured three quotes, this is where we can tap into the quote comparison report, brought to you by the sponsors of the Mass Save program. You'll be able to run a quote comparison evaluation at no cost that will help you really understand the difference between the quotes you have received, um, highlighting cost effectiveness, impact on heating and cooling, environmental benefits, among other data points, right? And we're going to look into this a little bit later on. Um, but we recognize that proposals, that quotes can be a little bit of jarring when we first take a look at them, and especially jarring when we start to compare them to one another. Um, we typically see a delta of about $8,000 from the highest proposal to the lowest proposal. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how the quote comparison report itself helps you evaluate and helps you normalize these costs on kind of a even playing field so that you can make the best decision and that you are making the best decision for your home, right? So we have received quotes. We have completed, submitted, received the quote comparison report. We have evaluated those proposals. Next up is selecting an installer, right? Mass Save requires that you work with an 8-pin contractor, a heat pump installer network contractor, of which there are many to choose from. The quote comparison report will comment on the system eligibility, but you're also going to want to have that conversation with your installer, making sure that they are going to guide you through the rebate process and help you through the several steps, whether you're getting a partial or a whole home rebate, right? And we'll talk about those rebate amounts shortly. Um, but once you have installed, once you've picked, installed, then it's time to claim those Mass Save rebates for your eligible systems, right? Receiving the money that you are eligible for. So let's take a step back, something I mentioned on that last slide there, the heat pump installer network. On the Mass Save website, so that is masssave.com, you can navigate to the 8-pin list, the improved installer list, which ensures that your installer knows and understands the Mass Save rebate process, and can represent the program's goals at the end of the day too. That's super important. Um, Only by working with an HPIN contractor do you gain access to Mass Save incentives and rebates for heat pumps. So it's important that you're utilizing that list both as a requirement, but also as a resource in which you are finding installers in your area that will help you in your switch to heat pumps, right? Meeting you where you're at and guiding you through the journey there. So let's get into considerations. When you're getting a heat pump or even thinking about getting a heat pump, there's a lot, excuse me, a lot to consider there. Installing heat pumps comes with challenges, comes with questions, comes with decisions that must be made, right? So let's think about some comments. So installing heat pumps instead of installing a traditional fossil fuel system or doing nothing at all, right? Being able to determine your motivation will allow your installer to better select a piece of equipment that is going to meet your needs, right? So are you approaching the decision with the environment in mind? Is comfort king? Is cost a major factor? Being able to articulate your intention is going to be super important in building a relationship with your installer. Will you maintain your pre-existing heating source or your primary heating source, right? One of the goals of Mass Save is to displace as much traditional fossil fuel heating as possible with heat pumps, right? And there's new equipment on the marketplace that is highly effective in cold climates, rated specifically for New England winters. So the possibility of replacing and disconnecting your existing heating system is there, right? We're in a place where we have 2 years, we have not 2 years, we have several years of successful whole home installations. I used two years thinking back to that cold snap of 2 winters ago. Um, but we saw those systems, heat pump systems, meeting needs at both the low end of the temperature spectrum, but also the high end, right? In our very hot Massachusetts summers as well. It doesn't really have to be an either or either, right? There are rebates within the Mass Save program that allow you to keep your existing heating source and supplement heat pumps with that pre-existing heating source. Maybe it's a dual fuel system, right? And again, there are different routes that you can pursue, and we'll look at those rebate amounts shortly, right? Whether you want to pursue that whole home or that partial home. So the next question, could your home benefit from a home energy assessment? Taking advantage of a Mass Save home energy assessment is key. Mass Save offers no cost, comprehensive assessments to all residential customers, right? As part of the assessment, a professional energy advisor will conduct a thorough analysis of your home's energy use. They'll walk through the home, they'll offer tips on appliance usage, and most importantly, they'll provide a report detailing their recommendations and estimated savings for any suggested improvements. Um, right, through Mass Save, you can actually receive incentives that cover the complete cost of air sealing, um, up to 75 or 100% of insulation, depending on your income level or size of building. They'll install light bulbs and water conscious shower heads. There are a lot of options to improve the comfort in your home, and the Mass HEA will help you identify them. So next up, the kind of elephant in the room. How do we pay for these? The sponsors of Mass Save recognize that it's not just about upfront costs, right? And upfront rebates to help you digest that cost, right? But it's about the long-term support. So the Mass Save 0% interest heat loan um, kind of targets that and helps you pay for it over a longer period of time with a 0% loan, right? This is going to be over 7 years, up to 25 or $50,000, depending on the project. I recommend going to masssave.com/heat loan. It's a fantastic resource to learn more about this offering, what financial institutions nearby offer this loan and the process and eligibility requirements to engage in it. And lastly, and I say lastly, I'm gonna hold myself to five here, even though we could dive into a lot more common considerations. Um, but the last one we'll target today is that pre-existing heating fuel type, right? This is the real value of a consultation of a quote comparison report. There's never going to be an agenda that's being pushed, right? We are meeting homeowners where they are at. If a customer already has a high efficiency natural gas furnace, there are additional considerations to be made when we're considering cost savings, when we're considering return on investment, or whether you have oil or propane, right? We'll be able to help you navigate your options and arrive at a decision that fits your needs and your motivations here. So heat pumps, right? Let's do a quick dive into the technology, and I told you I won't get too technical, so I'll hold myself to that. Today we'll talk about the kind of two main forms of setups: ductless units and ducted units. Right here on this page, we're looking at ductless units, and we are highlighting three different options. Um, for some quick background, right? Heat pumps use electricity to power a compressor and transfer heat using the same actually idea behind refrigerators and air conditioning units. In winter, it transfers heat indoors. In summer, it transfers that heat outdoors. Um, so typically you'll see an outdoor condenser that looks something like a central AC unit or a rectangle on stilts there. And that's going to be either connected to an air handler located typically in a attic or basement, or that can be connected to what are called mini splits, right? Those are the rectangular white boxes or floor units or ceiling cassettes, right? There's a diversity of options in how you can configure your home based on your home's unique needs, right? And I think that's another one of the true values of heat pumps is that there are so many different configurations, um, and your installer, your HPIN contractor, will be able to help you kind of parse through the different options to find the best setup for your home. Because at the end of the day, right, your comfort is the priority, and installing a heat pump with comfort in mind is incredibly important. Um, we recommend that homeowners receive a manual J to calculate the home's heating load, and based off that heating load, then the installer will be able to kind of more accurately size and select a piece of equipment. So spotlighting our different options right now. We have a wall hung unit on that left side of the page right there. I'm guessing this is what most of us are familiar with when we think about heat pumps. This can be easily hung on exterior walls and sometimes interior walls, right? Depending on the situation. It works by moving air over a coil, right? And provides, again, both heating and cooling throughout the entirety of the year. Same with floor mounts over here, right? This is going to look a little bit more familiar, right? Kind of like a radiator, at least in where it would sit, the shape. These are actually becoming increasingly popular and are a great alternative to wall hung units. And the last option on the right is a ceiling cassette. And these ceiling cassettes can actually be mounted into your ceiling, right? In the bottom picture over there, it's a bit of a newer product that does a better job actually fitting between the joists in your ceiling. So it should hypothetically slide right in there. Um, this was previously an issue in terms of fitting some of the ceiling cassettes. Um, but as the technology continues to improve, the design continues to improve as well. And we have options that fit in a broader kind of range of configurations and environments. And again, these are just a few of the options, highlighting the diversity of options that we have access to. Recently, I saw a picture frame wall unit, um, and it's exactly what it sounds like, right? It's a picture frame that also blows air, right? And you can throw on maybe a child's artwork, a photo, or a painting that you like. So next up, let's talk about ducted heat pumps, right? So we're coming from ductless, now talking about ducted. And to answer a pretty large and common question, what if I have a central AC, right? How would a heat pump, can a heat pump utilize my existing duct, right? So these systems will distribute air using your existing ductwork, right? There are considerations that go into this decision. We want to test your ducts. We want to seal them if necessary to prevent leakage, right? Maintaining that high efficiency nature of a heat pump. But today's contractors are absolutely able to discuss your unique home characteristics, right? And they'll be able to select equipment that makes sense for your kind of approach, right? And there are two major types of ducted units, and the first one that we'll look at is a compact ducted unit, right? And this is usually more zonal based, where we have them satisfying the heating and cooling needs of a floor, maybe a wing of the house, using a much smaller air handler, typically serving 2 to 4 rooms, right? So again, over a smaller area. The second option, we also have access to centrally ducted units, and right, centrally ducted are going to be able to distribute heat, cool air through to work connected to vents throughout the entirety of a home, or at least throughout a much larger area, right? And before we move on, just while we talk about the systems here, I want to I referenced it a little bit earlier on, but I want to dispel the myth in clear terms, right? In cold climates like Massachusetts, high efficiency cold climate heat pumps can and do provide 100% of a home's heating and cooling needs, right? And that can go down to negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit. In the past, um, contractors have told their customers to turn off the heat pump or switch over to their existing system when outside temperatures drop below freezing. And that was true in the past. But today's cold climate units have enhanced heating capacity in cold weather and can be left running under all outdoor conditions. And again, satisfying either a whole home or some of the home in a partial home system. So diving into this project, the quote comparison report demonstration project specifically, in the benefits of utilizing this service, right? Um, this is designed to help you make a better and more informed decision, right? So again, we want folks to get multiple quotes with different brands and manufacturers represented. And I'm not sure if anyone has gotten a quote or proposal recently, but the amount of information can vary pretty widely, right? We see proposals that have tons of technical jargon that are very high level that can be confusing, right? Other quotes or proposals just have 3 bullet points, and they may even not include the model numbers of the units. So there again is a lot of range in which you are going to see your proposals presented to you. The benefit of this community first partnership and the quote comparison report demonstration project is tapping into the QCR and being able to analyze key questions that typically come up in the process of evaluating the quotes in front of you and expanding on either a little bit of information or compressing a lot of information to a more digestible report, right? So it'll compare the performance, the operational costs, the environmental impacts. Um, it will do so all in a simple report, just 3 pages, that provides you with a side by side comparison of up to 3 proposed heat pumps. Um, After you run the report, you actually have access to a consultation, a no-cost consultation with a follow-up to ask additional questions, um, to continue digesting the information in front of you and speak with a specialist about your, again, unique situation to answer any questions that may still be lingering in your decision. So diving into the few specific sections, and I'll try to move through this quickly. Um, So there are 3 things we're highlighting here, right? One of the largest things people worry about, ask about is cost, right? And like I mentioned before, there's a delta of about $8,000 between high and low quote prices. And that variation can be daunting, right? So the tool uses the 5 degree temperature mark. And we actually do an analysis where we take the cost, normalize it at a cost per ton at 5 degrees to show the system's performance at low temperatures, right? Indicating true system performance, true operational cost, and normalizing it against one another. So as you'll see in this example over here, we have 3 quotes. And right off the bat, we see that quote A is the cheapest, quote C sits right in the middle, and quote B is the highest, right? But then we take kind of a step back and we look at the cost per ton, and we see that quote C is actually $1,000, around $1,000 cheaper at a cost per ton than quote A, right? So how is this possible, right? You're basically getting more power for your dollar. You are getting a larger system, right? They uh, cost per ton lower cost, right? But just because it is cheaper doesn't make it better. So we dive even deeper here. The next section actually talks about operating cost changes, right? It takes each quote and plots them on a line, taking into account your geographical location, your home attributes, your home characteristics to make a more customized efficiency rating, right? It's going to be more in depth than what a maybe spec sheet might offer. And spec sheets are often what a company quotes or proposals and come directly from manufacturers that contain some pretty high level information. Again, language that is sometimes difficult to digest. So Sometimes systems on the surface are rated on par with one another and actually might have a difference in the actual function when looking at weather in your area, when looking at the home characteristic um, data of your home, right? So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're expecting a certain performance and efficiency, but because the actual conditions, um, the actual kind of operating environment wasn't taken into consideration, then you're getting a different outcome. So we try again to normalize this and present this to you in a pretty um, digestible way. Um, so we have quote A, quote B, and quote C. And we're actually going to see that quote A in the example will cost you about 20% more on an annual basis as compared to your current system. Whereas quote C is going to come out about where you're sitting right now. But quote B, remember that higher cost one, is actually kicking butt. And we're seeing around 15% annual savings. And these are not really ever highlighted in the process, not really ever kind of communicated. Um, Annual cost is incredibly important to a major financial decision like this, right? And the last piece on this page is highlighting heating and cooling performance, right? And you'll see that quote A lags behind in both indicators, right? Quote B is approaching a coefficient of about 2.75 or 275% efficiency, right, in the heating season. It sits right in the middle in the cooling season. And quote C is the kind of best alternative in cooling mode, but heating, it's down around quote A versus quote B, right? So this all again is designed to help you make the best decision possible. It presents the operating costs, the operating environment, the actual performance in a way um, that we hope is easier for you to make a decision based on. And again, you always have access to that additional consultation, no cost consultation afterwards. So you can talk this through with a heat pump specialist. So how and where do we submit a full comparison report, right? Um, right on your Community First Partnership website. And this report will be disseminated with that website nearby. Um, you'll go to that site, you'll upload quotes, you'll provide some home characteristic information, some data, maybe some historical fuel usage. Um, Once you submit it, a team reviews that report. It makes some kind of human touches just to make sure that we're taking into consideration your motivation, matching it up with your systems. Um, you'll receive a report, and again, you'll have access to that follow up with a heat pump specialist if you have additional questions. All in the aim of selecting the option that makes the most sense for you, right? That meets your needs. So I referenced this a little later, a little earlier in the presentation, right? We have two rebate types in the Mass Save program. Both use the Mass Save HPQPL, so the heat pump qualified product list, as their efficiency requirement, right? So you can navigate to masssave.com/HPQPL to determine eligible systems, but your contractor should be familiar with this process already. If you are pursuing a whole home rebate, you, if qualifying, would have access to $10,000 per home. If you're pursuing a partial home rebate, you would have access to $1,250 per ton, up to $10,000. So if you put in a 2-ton system, that would be $2,500, 3-ton, 4-ton, all the way up to $10,000 as a cap there. And if you qualify um, based on your income for the enhanced amount, you are going to receive up to $16,000 per home for these heat pump installs. And I'm listing some additional requirements, right? I don't want you to think that this is kind of the scope of the Save Heat Pump program. There are additional requirements, partial home rebates, right? You are required to install an integrated control system from the Mass Save integrated control product list. And that must be integrated with the pre-existing heating type, propane, oil, natural gas, to make sure we are tapping into that high efficiency nature of heat pumps. whole home projects, you must prove that your home is sufficiently weatherized. There are a few different ways to do this: receiving an HEA, building your home after 2000, having received an HEA after 2013, right? So there's additional information that I urge you to kind of look through and ask your installer about. And you can find that information by visiting masssave.com. So now it is a time to get started, right? Maybe you are already in the process, maybe you're starting this process. Um, Please reach out to CFP at abodem.com with any questions. We'd be happy to answer them. Um, your Community First Partnership program will, again, disseminate the URL in which you can sign up for the quote comparison report and submit that. Um, but we wish you good luck in the journey. Thanks for attending today on behalf of the Mass Save sponsors again, and have a good rest of the day, everybody.